All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 12th, 2015 meeting of the City of Revere Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. My name is Joe Gravelisi. I serve as the mayor's appointee as chair to this board. We have we have members joining us both in person and virtually today, so I'm going to do a roll call. And if you're joining us virtually, I just ask that you just shout it out, and we should be able to pick you up through that. But if I miss anybody, please let me know. But I believe everyone is here one way or the other. So I'll begin the roll call with Claire and Zerillo.
Here.
And Anayo Oswaki. Here. And Deb Frank.
Here.
Matt Wolfer.
Here.
Layla Pietri.
Here.
Lori Manzo.
Here.
And Dean Harris.
Here.
All right, so I do see the presence of a quorum, and I'd also like to note that we do have in attendance Tom Skorowski on behalf of the City of Revere. So thank you, Tom, for joining us. We'll begin running through tonight's agenda items. So we'll start, as always, with the treasurer's update. So Anayo. Sure.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anayo Swiki. I'll read the current balance for the Affordable Housing Trust Committee. Again, this is provided with the great courtesy of Asuta Newton. The current balance is $675,199. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to shift into a few updates that Tom, I'm going to count on you to work through a little bit with us. Just to start with, I think most of you are already aware of this, but just a lot of you provided a lot of input and support for the city's housing production plan, and it did pass, thanks to the great efforts of everybody, and also thank you to the members of the City Council for a constructive process and getting to something that everyone can be comfortable with. Tom, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that plan and the vote that happened to ratify it.
Sure. So for those of you that were following, we have been, I think, first presented this plan to the council in late November, had a subsequent meeting in December, and then, things kind of settled down during the holidays. But many of you all were at those initial meetings and stayed through for the long haul as it made its way to various committees. And the council was really receptive and, had some great feedback and slight tweaks, really, we just made to the final plan that was adopted, I think, by an 8-3 vote of the council last Monday. The tweaks were pretty minor, just to go over a couple of them. So there was a suggestion to allow single room occupancy or SROs by right, and that was pretty soundly rejected by the city council. And I had my own concerns about putting that into practice. So that was removed. And then other things were really just some tweaks here and there. So there was language that said 2 and 3 families being allowed by right across the city. And we just, wanted to think about both with regard to that and zero lot line building, having a more focused and targeted approach if and when we bring those zoning changes to the city. So this was just a plan with a series of tools in our toolbox. And the next step will actually be bringing those to the council for individual votes at a later date. And we'll intend to do that in the new year, starting with a few of the sort of lower hanging fruit projects that we'll be partnering with with the trust. So the first of those will be the 6 tax title properties that we'll be handing over to the trust, hopefully with a council approval and vote, for then us to go out to an RFP seeking a developer to create some affordable housing homeownership opportunities. So we'll be taking projects like that as they come throughout the year and in the years to come. It's a 5-year plan. Each and every one of those tools, if we were to use it, would require council approval at some point in time in a later date. So this is really just the start of the work, not the end. But we're excited to move to this next step.
Yeah, thank you. And I think one of the things that was germane to what we did, and I was glad that, what we ended up doing was just communicating it better rather than really changing what we were trying to accomplish, which is really clarifying that one of the tools that we want to have in that toolbox is the opportunity for folks to sell to the city, if they have what we like to call naturally occurring affordable housing. And I think the classic example we might all think of is like a 3-family building or like a small apartment building that's been owned and occupied by a resident. They may be retiring or downsizing or moving out or whatever the case may be. And in conjunction with Tom, and with the council, we were able to really clarify this isn't compelling anyone to sell it to the city, but giving them the option, giving the city the opportunity to purchase these and then be able to use them for affordable housing development. I think that ties in obviously to what we're doing with the RFP process, but I think it's something that should be a great opportunity for us to preserve affordable housing moving forward. So I was glad to see that made it in. So any questions on the housing production plan? I want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on the virtual attendees as well, but I don't see any raised hands, but feel free to shout them out if you have them. Great. So another thing that's sort of a conjunction effort between this board and Tom's office and will continue to affect us also, just really quickly moving forward with HDIP. Tom, by the way, I have a call with Becca George tomorrow just to kind of hone in on some things and clarify some things that she had questions on. So I'll report back to you on that. But do you want to just give it a high level kind of where things are at with that?
Yeah, sure. So that was also approved same night by the council, I think, similar vote. And it's a tool in the Shirley Avenue and the Green Street zoning districts that we created, which are like density bonus districts for anyone looking to build at least 20% affordable. If it's larger than 8 units and less than 8 units, just somewhere in between. It's a tool where we would look to provide local and state tax incentives to encourage affordable housing development in those two districts. So I should say mixed income development, because it'll be a little bit of both. It's also a tool you can use for market rate housing development, and the other HDIP plan is for Suffolk Downs. And as you all know, that property does not have affordable housing. It was approved at a different time in the city's sort of trajectory where we needed more market rate housing, and now we're in a bit of an affordability crisis. So there were some questions that came up about affordability with regard to that project, and some suggestions that perhaps if there was some local tax deal made there could be some contributions to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to help offset that impact. But those were approved and now submitted to the state, and we're awaiting state review. Once the state reviews the projects, then any projects that fall within the purview that want to execute a local tax agreement with the city, that would have to go in front of the city council. And we anticipate the first big project would be Suffolk Downs, and we'd anticipate that happening sometime late winter, early spring.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions for Tom or about that program? Okay, seeing none. This also is just tied in. I had it as a separate agenda item, but the RFP process for those city-owned properties. So the next step in that is going to be requesting a conveyance of the properties to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for disposition of them. And so Claire, I see you joining us virtually here. I'm going to be working with you to get that drafted. Unless you think there's any reason not to move forward with that for the next council meeting, Tom, I think that probably makes sense. That was our plan, is to get that in for the next meeting.
I agree.
Yeah. And so just so for folks to catch them up, I know that we've talked about this a few times, but it's also been delayed a little bit. So just to make sure everyone's up to speed, and I see a thumbs up from Clara, so that's good. Those 6 city-owned properties that Tom mentioned, as we've discussed, we are going to put those out to bid where there's going to be a preference for affordable housing, but we're going to consider a number of different alternatives, right? If folks bid, we may have the opportunity to use proceeds to go into the trust fund or have those properties be developed as affordable directly. And that process really kicks off by conveying the properties to the trust, for this purposes. So Claire and I will get to work on getting that in front of the council for the next meeting, and then the properties will come over to the trust, and then at that point they'll go out to bid, and we'll all be part of that process of really evaluating bids that come in and weighing the pros and cons, right, of different kinds of bids. So I know we've been over this a bit, but I just want to always make sure that everyone's fully up to speed. So any questions about sort of the mechanics of that, about that process? Good. Okay. Another kind of new, somewhat breaking news item from this week is related to the first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program. We received an additional earmark from the state. I believe was that of 75.
75,000, so triples the capacity of the program. And we didn't know it was coming, so special thank you to Senator Edwards for making that one happen and providing a very happy surprise for us in our inbox earlier this week when we saw that come in. So we have now reopened the program and the application online. We'll be doing some more aggressive marketing in the next week, getting the program out there. We wanted to just open it back up because we knew there were folks in the community that had asked about it before, and hopefully this can be the first kind of public way of stating that. And we look forward to new applications. We can take plenty in with this additional support. So we're grateful to Senator Edwards for bringing this to the table.
Yeah.
Tom, I've got a quick question. Has this been announced already? This new open bids?
I just did, I guess.
Yeah.
No, but more formally, we'll be doing that in the next couple days.
Sure. So folks listening or watching can apply now. We'll leave you a website and
Yes,
everything.
yeah, you can apply now.
And
You heard
we'll-
it here first, breaking news.
Yep, it's breaking news now, and we're also, I think, all going to pick up on those efforts. And so I think, like, for instance, Deb, I know that it would be great to chat with you, and I'll give you, we'll speak at your convenience about how to promote it on your end for folks that maybe are already receiving some other programs, like some state programs, how we can really bundle those together and increase the impact and make more people know that it's available to them. Dean, if there's the opportunity to get that in front of more, residents of the housing authority that might qualify and be interested. So if we all want to think about best ways to promote this opportunity, since we didn't get a ton of applicants the first go around that fit the guidelines. So I think that we certainly got enough, right? Like we definitely, I think we'll get enough applicants at some point to fill up the full demand. But we know that there's probably more people out there that are interested in it that may qualify for it, that we just want to make sure that we do as good a job as possible getting the word out to folks.
And I would stress to people, and maybe this is something we could change in our language. If you are pre-qualified and you work through all the steps, you don't have to immediately have a property that you have. And I'm wondering if maybe that was why it was a bit slower. Again, we've got plenty in the queue, so we've got folks that need it, but it was maybe a bit slower because we're in like the winter time where it's just not a lot of people are thinking about this right now, but this is actually the perfect time to apply and get qualified, because in spring, when the buying season really heats up, that's something you can have. And is 6 months, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
so after you're approved, you have 6 months to find a property. So this is the time really to apply. And, we've got a press release, and we did announcements in multiple languages way back when. I think we need to refresh all those and maybe add some points about that so people know they've got a little bit of time. They don't need to do this immediately.
Do you have a deadline?
The deadline is when the funds are exhausted. So it's open, rolling, but kind of first come, first serve. So we'll be sure to mention that in all the outreach about it. Deb, I do see that you're unmuted, and I want to make sure to get your input here because I know that, it's
Yeah,
particularly
I
valuable.
think this becomes even more important because effective January 1st, Mass Housing changed their DPA program. So what you used to be able to receive $30,000 at 80% AMI, now it's 60% AMI because they were running low on funds and they had to reduce it. So, so that's made some difference. So I can certainly help promote it. I do seminars at least twice a month, and I will add this one to my list. I didn't add it before because I thought we were going to be out of money really quickly, but I will add it to the one I start doing next week.
Terrific. Outstanding. So I'm going to work on another round of like the press releases and materials that we did last time, but I certainly encourage everyone, and Deb, you have the natural opportunity to do it, but think about, places, organizations you belong to, work, personal, where you live, where there may be opportunities to promote this, unconventional ways to get the word out there. And we're going to work with the mayor's office too to make sure that it's promoted on social media, that it goes out to Veterans Affairs, that it goes to every kind of office where there are folks that might be interested in this and want to learn more. because it's a terrific opportunity. And as Tom mentioned, it was unexpected to receive the increase this year, so we're excited about that and really grateful for the opportunity to do this. So, any further questions about that? Otherwise, I'd say just be on the lookout for these promotional materials about it, links to the application, and spread the word and get it out there. Okay, questions, comments? No? Okay, so another item that we're working on that I've been talking about with Tom and that I envision the trust taking a role in is, we talked about a home repairs program for accessibility for seniors as they age in place. As you know, and as we all discussed, in order for us to operate this through the trust, it has to be a specific allocation from the city council to fund a project like this, if they were so willing to do so, or from the state budget. It's not something that we could fund out of the general, funds that we have for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund under the definition of it. But if we were to receive particular city or state funding to do it, it's something that we could do. So Tom and the mayor and I have explored some of these options. And we've kind of got a bit of a plan in place. So I don't know if Tom, if you want me to kind of go through a little bit of what that might look like. So I'm in the process. Obviously, we will have to work in conjunction with the city council to request funding for it. But the mayor and Tom and myself are fairly confident that there'll be a lot of support for this, of essentially creating a program where folks can apply for funding to do. We'll have an approved list of types of projects that are based on accessibility, right? So things like a wheelchair ramp or like handrails, other things that are necessary for folks that are aging in place in their home and might be needed for accessibility. And we're going to use the same sorts of eligibility requirements that we used for the first-time homebuyer program, which is Revere residency, owner occupancy. But then we also will add in being a senior citizen, but it'll also be at that 80% AMI, just like all the programs that we run out of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for eligibility. Our thought right now is to have the applications available via the Revere Senior Center, which just kind of makes the most sense logically as the starting point for that. But then I would ask the trust fund board to sort of help with vetting and communication with applicants, as well as sort of administering the program after we disperse the funds, where, we're still kind of ironing out the details, but the thought would be, once we get a estimate from a licensed approved contractor that's been approved and vetted by the building department, a partial payment could go out, via our fund, and then we'd have to get proof of completion of the project to pay the rest of it. And so I would envision this board would, we would split up taking some responsibility for like overseeing some of those to conclusion. And then also there'll be a clawback provision, where folks can't sell the home within a certain period of time after they do the repairs, right? Because the idea is this is to help people age in place in those properties, not just to sort of improve the value for resale, right? And so that'll be a part of what we monitor as a board as well. So we are going to work in conjunction with the mayor's office on getting that sort of application up and running. And I envision that we'd be able to do that within the next couple of weeks, have kind of an update for everybody. But I certainly would like this board to take an active role in kind of vetting those applications, overseeing the applications and the process and seeing it through. So does anyone have any questions about that? And by the way, the only thing I would add, just to make sure, because I don't want anyone to get confused, we did receive, you may recall, a proposal from Habitat for Humanity to do something like this, similar. We determined that our best method to do this was to, not go through a third party, but to have it be a city-administered program. But we certainly appreciated getting, their feedback because there's someone that's done this before. But this would not be through a third-party entity. This would be administered by the city. We'd be doing the evaluation of eligibility, and overseeing the disbursement of funds. So that should reduce administrative costs, because I think if you all remember when we had that Q&A session about it, we were concerned with limited budget, the sort of amount of overhead that we'd have to pay for. This should reduce that. It should be pretty straightforward, a pretty straightforward list of approved types of projects. And if we get that, we'll be able to get the funds right out to the folks that need it. So that's the plan of attack on the senior home repairs program. And we should have updates on that for you, within the next couple of weeks. But does anyone have any questions about it?
Are you and the mayor working together to do the proposal to the city council, or how?
Yes. Like I said, I think the mayor will want to have his conversations with the council about where it fits in their priorities, but I think we envision moving pretty quickly on this. Is that a pretty accurate statement, Tom? Yeah, I get the thumbs up from Tom. So, so I would envision having an update for everybody on this well before the next meeting. This will be, within a couple of weeks for sure. Okay. Any other city-related updates, Tom? I just have this space as like city updates as needed on housing-related issues. No? Okay, seeing none. So as we discussed at the last meeting, I think to help us continue the momentum and take these monthly meetings, but then moving into working sessions to allow us to really accomplish our goals. Last month, we talked about forming a couple of subcommittees, and we can always form some more, but I think it makes sense to start with two. One dedicated to fundraising opportunities for the trust, whether that be through finding private fundraising opportunities or supporting efforts like the Community Preservation Act and other ways to get more funds in the door. And then the other dedicated to home ownership projects. And I think in particular, what I would ask this subcommittee to do is really, begin to sink our teeth into what are our different options that fit sort of the budget that we have to do the next home ownership project that we do. Like the last one that we did was that condo project, which was great. I think Tom knows that we would love as a board, should the opportunity present itself, to supplement a Commonwealth Builder type application again if we had another similar project come along line, but those don't happen every day. So we might need to just think differently, about the next project. And so that could be, purchasing a property that's for sale, which is something that we've talked about doing in the past, or something else, right? So I think that that's going to be like the role of this subcommittee, is to really sink our teeth into it. I know, Matt, you're going to participate in this, and you've talked about maybe building some relationships with realtors or brokers and trying to kind of get their perspective on what's available. So I think by formalizing these subcommittees and getting the workload out of kind of just these monthly meetings and into more informal sessions in between, this will help us make progress on that as a critical priority for us. So I've been in touch with both subcommittees, and so we've got calls set up for the 18th, which is this coming Tuesday, and then Thursday, the 20th, for each of the respective subcommittees, the one on the 18th being the home ownership subcommittee, and the one on the 20th being fundraising. After all the various emails back and forth and communications, I believe we settled on noon for both of those. And I just want to make sure that everyone got those communications, that they're still on board with those times, and they're good to start digging our teeth into those topics at subcommittee meetings next week.
Sure. I've got a question actually
Yeah.
about participation from
Yeah.
the city itself. For fundraising in particular, are there any framework or legal responsibilities that we should be aware of when we're talking about fundraising activities on behalf of the city, or as a representative from the Affordable Housing Committee? For example, if we were to go with fundraising presumably to the private sector, are there any literature that we should read so that we will be in accordance with the appropriate process for that? Lastly, would it be possible to include someone from the city just as like kind of an oversight to say we're doing it in accordance with, the, well, I wouldn't want to run afoul
that's a
of
really,
that.
really good question. So first of all, as a special city employee, as my term as chair of this board, I am trained in conflict of interest law. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that even though I think are the other members of the board required to receive that training? Have you received the conflict of interest training?
I would love that
Yeah.
if there's an
I
opportunity for
received the
it.
training also yesterday.
It might not be mandatory, but we might want to offer it as an option, and so maybe we can look into seeing if that's possible through HR.
It's pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem. It's just a link you can share. It's an online training. At the same time, happy to be a sounding board with some of those like very legitimate concerns that we should think through once you guys have developed kind of a fundraising scheme or some ideas in terms of what
I
you want to
think,
do.
obviously, I don't want to speak for the pretty straightforward training that we'll send around to everybody, but obviously, I'll be part of these conversations to help and be a sounding board too. But the main thing is, of course, always making sure that I'd say the driving force behind a lot of this conflict of interest rule is just making sure that there's not a crossing of streams between your personal interest and the interest of the city or the public entity that you're representing, right? And so I think where the potentials for conflict of interest arise involve your personal kind of business interests or work interests. And so I don't want to speak out of turn on that. I think I'll get the link around to everybody so that you can all follow along with that training and learn more about it. But I'm glad that you raised that, because that's obviously, particularly when we're talking about money, you want to make sure that everyone's kind of up to speed on conflict of interest law. I think for sure, I know that Claire would be well trained on this, and Dean, given their status as well.
Can anyone hear me? I'm driving. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to flag that my office also has a lot of guidance and literature from the Attorney General's office regarding fundraising by either city employees or board and commission members. And the trust fund's a little bit different because we are authorized to solicit donations and accept monies and land and things like that. So I can put together kind of a compilation of what we have and share it with everyone on our board, so we feel extra secure in addition to the conflict of interest stuff that you guys are going to share.
Thanks a lot, Claire. That'd be very helpful. I think, before starting any project like this, it's kind of good to know what the framework are, what are the limitations, that sort of thing, and understanding what the appropriate procedures to do certain things. We want to run afoul for it. So anything that you can do to provide guidance would be extremely helpful, and that link as well. So although it might seem rote and kind of like boring, it's kind of good to know specifically these are the requirements and expectations for anyone dealing on behalf of the city, especially in regards to finances.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up. And so we'll make sure to get those resources out to everybody. And we've got these calls set up for next week to begin sinking our teeth in. I think that this is an exciting opportunity for us to just kind of take the next step on some of these ideas. I know that they're both really central to what we want to accomplish as we think of bigger and better goals. So looking forward to those conversations with everybody. Deb, I see you're in.
Yeah, I don't see any emails about the subcommittees.
You know what? I think that you were not at the last meeting, and therefore I don't think we notified you about that. So thank you. I'm going to email you. I think I would suggest, I certainly wouldn't supposed to tell you what to do, but I would suggest that being involved in the subcommittee on home ownership projects would be an amazing fit for you and your background and your experience.
If I would agree.
Yeah. Obviously, you'd be happy to have you participate whatever you like, but I'm going to link you in with that subcommittee. And so they're going to have, that's going to be a Zoom call at midday, if that's okay with you. I know it might not be possible.
Next Thursday?
Yes. Tuesday, sorry, next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So the 18th at noon. So hopefully that works for you.
Make it work.
We'll get you on that invitation, and like I said, that way we can begin. And I think also there's a great opportunity for synergy between that and the down payment assistance program too. Right now we have that available, and maybe there's a way to link those efforts together. So, outstanding. Thank you for flagging that for me. All right, any other questions about the subcommittees? Okay, seeing none. Okay, so does anyone have any additional items for the agenda for today?
I have one. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting anybody.
Not at all.
So again, apologies that I'm driving, but I could not avoid it. I want to share with everyone that I had to officially submit my resignation from this wonderful board with the mayor today. It's not effective until April. I have been expired for some time, if any of you have noticed, but I requested that the mayor not reappoint me because I have a lot of new responsibilities that I have to take care of after work starting this summer, and so I knew I wouldn't be able to devote the time and the passion that this board deserves. If you'll still have me, I do volunteer my services as an unofficial clerk. If you need help posting minutes and agendas and posting on the city calendar, I am more than happy to do that because I still will be working here at City Hall every day. So if that's something that's still desired, I would love to help out in that way, but I will not be able to contribute fully as a member in the way that I have the last 2 years. So I wanted to share that with you all. And if you know anyone who is a market rate tenant, because that is the position I hold, I encourage you to talk to any colleagues or classmates or neighbors and pass the name along to the mayor's office if you have anyone in mind that you think would be a good fit for the board. Again, I am the market rate tenant boss, somebody who pays market rate rent, which shouldn't be too hard to find in this city. But I do want to thank you all for always listening to me babble and hear some of my silly questions sometimes. But I really enjoyed my time, and I still have a couple months with you all, but I just wanted to share that with you all first.
Claire, I think I speak for everybody when I say that your contributions have been invaluable, and we're so grateful to have had the opportunity to have you serve on the board. We're glad that you're not going away right away, and also glad that we'll still have you as a sounding board and a resource for our legal questions and minutes posting and agendas. And we certainly wish you all the best of luck. I know that you have a lot on your plate, but we're excited to see everything that you do. So thank you for everything you've done for the board. And just to echo what Claire said, I have had some conversations with folks that might be good candidates to join the board. Although I don't think any of the people that I've talked to fall into that category of people that pay market rate as tenants, as renting tenants in the city. So reiterating, echoing that we'd love to have someone fill that capacity. And so if you have folks that you recommend, please pass them along to us. Great. Well, thank you, Claire. And like I said, we're sorry to see you go, but glad that you're not going too far.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Other items from anyone else?
Claire, we're gonna miss you.
Agreed.
I'll still be here, don't worry.
Well, that's good. You didn't get to do a meeting with the fancy new AV technology here in the council chamber, so hopefully you get to do that next month, before you go.
Definitely.
For those participating remotely, hopefully everyone's been able to hear everything. This is the first time that we've done a meeting with the new AV technology in the council chamber, but I think it's gone pretty smoothly so far, as far as I can tell. I haven't gotten any word from anybody that nobody could hear me yet, so I think we are in good shape. All right. Other questions, comments, agenda items, things to put on for the next meeting, anything like that? Okay, well, with that, we will move to adjourn. But before, I just want to remind everybody, as we started last month, we've kind of got this calendar process in place to get the agenda out there, to get the minutes posted, to get the subcommittee follow-ups done. I hope people have found that to be helpful and not a nuisance. I don't intend it to be a nuisance, but I do want to just encourage people, to put their agenda items on the table. If you have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have thoughts, or even if your agenda item is just, I think we should learn more about X, Y, and Z, and you want to give me homework and, have me go invite somebody to come and speak to us or talk to us about what we're doing, I'm happy to do that. So, like I said, appreciate your kind of going along with that. And I thank you for holding me accountable too. And part of that will be making sure that we turn these draft minutes around in a timely manner, and get them out to everybody by the end of this week so that you can all make your comments and we can continue to move forward on all these items that we're working on. So we have a lot of balls kind of up in the air right now. I'm excited to see them move forward between senior home repairs, first-time home buyer program, and this RFP process. So exciting times, and then also getting the subcommittees going on fundraising and home ownership. So thank you, everyone, for your contributions today. Unless anyone has anything else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, any objection? Okay, seeing none. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.